Societies on Io have governments, and those governments have the responsibility of protecting their citizens. But what happens when a threat becomes too large for a government to handle? That's when it becomes the job of arguably the most influential organization in Io's history, the Circle. To understand what the Circle is, we must first understand the circumstances it was created under. After the War of the Six Races, which ended around 600 years before the Convocation, Io was plagued by an event collectively known as the Mage Wars, individual attempts of mages to overthrow their governments. This became such an issue that around the year 518 BC, the governments of the major races, the humans, elves, dwarves, dark elves and orcs, decided something must be done to prevent this. Even though the light and dark races weren't exactly on friendly terms, they put their differences aside to find a solution to the problem they all shared. This solution was the Circle, an autonomous organization with authority over all governments, with the idea that they could control the misuse of magic and quell any rebellions before they properly started. For this, the Circle had to fulfill two requirements. First, it had to stand above all governments so that no government would use the Circle for its own benefit, meaning that the Circle was ruled by its members, not any outside force. And second, its members had to be extremely respected and powerful mages so that they could enforce their authority where needed. To that end, the governments sent out their most powerful and well-known mages to become members of the Circle and to represent them. The group originally consisted of 12 members, although a 13th was added shortly thereafter, resulting in the Circle to be comprised of 8 humans, 1 dwarf, 1 elf, 2 dark elves, and 1 orc. Those members were Rowan Tahir, Uram the Red, Iana the Singer, Silverhand the Master of Mirrors, Undergast the Weaver, Shah of the Isles, the Piper, Isgrim the Smith, Iria of the Light, Wraith the Black, Zaha the Snake, Gore the Changeling, and Hokan Ashir, who was the aforementioned 13th member. There is no official explanation for such an uneven distribution, however my speculation is that it was relative to the general population of our race, which would explain the prevalence of humans, since they are by far the most populous race on Io. To further emphasize their autonomy, the Circle decided to not rule from any already established city, but instead to build their own from scratch. One of its members, the dwarf Isgrim, was tasked with creating the city Molandir here, above a demonic rift in the Barga Gore, and it became the center of the Circle's power. From then on out, the Circle would diligently uphold their values, and Io entered a period of 400 years known as the Golden Age. However, this would not last forever, as internal differences, intrigues, and a lust for power caused the Circle to eventually split apart. Not too long after it was established, members of the Circle conducted research on magic in the ruins of the Shaper city Danduil, also known as the Citadel on Xu. There they discovered the Archfire, the essence of all magic on Io, as well as an old prophecy of the Convocation, a fabrication left behind by the renegade gods. The Archfire was originally meant to aid the Circle in their quest for peace, but they were soon consumed by its power and began devising plans to use it in order to acquire godhood during the Convocation. This ultimately led to the Circle falling apart and the Convocation Wars in the year 50 BC, as well as the destruction of Io 50 years later. Let us now turn our attention to the members of the Circle. Sadly, apart from the fact that all of them were powerful and well-respected masters of magic, we simply don't know too much about some of them. There are exceptions to this. We know a fair amount about Rowan, Hokan, Uram, Isgrim, and Wraith, which is why all of them will get a video dedicated to them in the near future, but I do want to tackle the rest of them here. Iana the Singer was a powerful mental mage, gifted in the art of taking mana away from her foes. We also know that her final resting place was at the Blackwater coast. Silverhand, the Master of Mirrors, was also a master of mental magic and was said to have been able to play tricks with the minds of his opponents. Iria of the Light was a highly regarded elf from Finan Mir and specialized in the art of white magic. Zaha the Snake was, just like Wraith the Black, very proficient at black magic and devoted his craft to the art of poisoning his foes, which is where he got his nickname from. Shah of the Isles was a powerful mage hailing from the Lost Islands, known for taming the Medusa there, which then became the guards of Mulandir. Gore the Changeling was mostly known for his ability to shapeshift into any creature he desired, but also for his capabilities as a summoner. The Piper was a master of hypnosis, and many say that whoever fell under his spell would likely never wake up again. And lastly, Undergast the Weaver is a mage about whom we sadly know nothing about. As mentioned earlier, all of the Circle Mages would eventually partake in the Convocation Wars, which is where EO first saw the broad application of arguably the Circle's greatest tool, the runes. The runes and the Rune Warriors will be covered on the channel in the future, so leave a like if you want to see that, but in any case, we know that the Circle invented those runes during their reign and used them to great effect in this war, causing legions of rune armies to roam across the land and to fight in epic battles for their masters. Some of the Circle Mages died during the war and never got to see the Convocation, however most of them were there when the Dark Roamer covered Aeonia's star. They took part in the ritual to free the elements and were crushed by their incredible power mere moments later. The only surviving Circle Mage was Rowan Tahir, who would live on trying to right his wrongs until he too met his end. Rowan's story, as well as the aftermath of the Circle, are events explored in the SpellForce games, and I would strongly recommend you to give them a go if you want to experience it for yourself. For a better overview of where the Circle fits on the timeline of SpellForce, consider checking out this video here, which goes over all the important events of the SpellForce canon. And with that, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, bye!